Not yet. Okay. So this week's parsha is Parshas Vaeira. And in this week's parsha, we have four terminologies of redemption. The Hoitzeisi, and I will take you out. The Itzalti, I'm going to save you. The Ga'alti, I'm going to redeem you. The Lakachti, and I will take you to me as a nation. So that's the connection between the parsha and today's teaching. So we're going to be talking about matzah. Why do we have three matzahs and 4 cups of wine? So it's not Pesach yet. Don't get nervous. But it is, this is where we are in the parsha. Okay, so it's a new thing now, 6, 7, 6, 7, but we're going to do 3, 4. Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. So the incredible thing is that in Yiddishkeit, in Judaism, everything is very, very precise. If there's 3 matzahs and 4 cups of wine, it's not random. Everything is very, very perfect. And we're going to see how. So there is a commentary on the Talmud called the Mordechai, and he asks a question. He says, thank you, why do we have 4 cups of wine? Why don't we have 4 matzahs? Let me turn this off. Matzah, the commandment to eat matzah on the Seder night, that is midairaisa, which means that is ordained from the Torah. And to have 4 cups of wine, that was instituted by the sages. So, biblically speaking, the mitzvah of the night is to have matzah, and that's 3. And the 4 cups are 4, and we have 4 cups representing these 4 terminologies of redemption. Okay, stop for a second. I'm going to turn this off. Okay, perfect.
Okay, no one's gonna mind. Okay, please.
I'm good. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Okay. Why do we eat matzah on Pesach? What happened? The Jewish people were making dough. The dough did not have time to rise. That's how quickly they had to leave. To remember how quickly we had to leave Egypt, that's why we're commanded, biblical commandment, to eat matzah on Pesach. And so what's more, the most fundamental thing on Pesach is the matzah. And it's all about us getting out of Egypt. So if the matzah is the most fundamental thing, don't you think we should have 4 matzahs representing the 4 languages of redemption? Why is it the wine that's 4 and the matzah just 3? The Mordechai says that the reason why we have 4 cups of wine is not because there are 4 terms of redemption. He says in the Torah, it says the word cup 4 times. Actually, it says it 3 times, but the 3rd time, it's in plural sense. It's in plural term, so that would be counted as 2. So the verses are, one is Hashem minas chalki v'koisi. The word kais is a cup, which means Hashem is my portion and my cup. That's 1. Kaisi rivaya, my cup is full. That's again kais. That's number 2. And then it says kais yeshuais esa, a cup of salvation I will raise. And the terminology is yeshuais, which is plural, a cup of salvations. So therefore, that would be considered as 2 cups. So that's 4 cups. So we could have 4 cups because we could drink 4 cups of wine because it says in the Torah cups 4 times, or alludes to cups 4 times. And but what about the languages of redemption? That's the big deal here. That's the key here, is the fact that we're redeemed from Egypt. There are 4 different terms, and it seems not to match up. Why is it you only have 3 matzahs the most fundamental thing is the four languages of redemption, and the most fundamental thing is the matzah. So shouldn't it just be 4 and 4? And they have another reason for the wine, for the 4 cups of wine. So, so this is his question. So in order to answer the question, first we have to understand why is it that we have 3 matzahs? From a very practical place, the reason why we have to have 3 matzahs is because on Shabbos we already know that we have 2 loaves of challah. That's called lecha mishnah. Why do we have 2? Because when the Jews were in the desert, they had man coming from heaven, and on Friday a double portion fell for Shabbos. So to remember, a double portion fell on Friday, they shouldn't have to go and collect on Shabbos. That's why we have two loaves. So 2 we for sure have to have. Why do we need a third? Because it says that when you say Magid, when you retell the story of the Exodus, you have to tell it over lechem oini. You have to do it over poor man's bread. So what's poor man's bread? Poor man's bread is a broken matzah. So I have to have 2 because I need to make the lechem mishnah, because I need to have 2 whole matzahs to break bread. But additionally, I need a third one to break so that I could say the story of the Exodus over a broken matzah, over poor man's bread. So I need to have one that could break. So practically speaking, this is why I have to have 3. But there's got to be something deeper.
Yeah, because you have the 3, but it doesn't say you can have the 4. I mean, saying you need the 2 plus 1 doesn't mean you can't have 4.
So we're going to learn that the fact that matzahs are 3 is extremely precise from a Hasidic perspective. Why specifically 3 and not 4? And why the cups have to be specifically 4? So this commentator, the Mordechai, he tried to give us an answer, but at the end of the day, in the Alter Rebbe, in the Code of Jewish Law, the Alter Rebbe says that we have 4 cups of wine for the 4 languages of Geula. So we're basically back to step 1. We're back in square 1, because the fact is that we drink 4 cups of wine for the 4 terms of redemption. That's in the Code of Jewish Law. So we have to dig deeper. We have to figure out why 3, why 4, what's the difference between these 2 numbers. The title of one of the titles for the class is that it's not. We're learning that numbers are not just digits. It's not just random. There's deep, deep, deep significance here. Okay. So we're going to learn that there are 2 different aspects of redemption. One aspect is represented by 3, and one aspect is represented by 4. Okay. So let's go back in history. What happened? The Jewish people were in Egypt. They were slaves for so many years. And it says that from a spiritual standpoint, there are 50 levels of purity. Welcome. And 50 levels of impurity. The Jews, when they were in Egypt, they had sunk so low, they were on the 49th level of impurity. And if God wouldn't have come at that minute to scoop them up and take them out in a very big hurry, they would have fallen into the 50th level of impurity, and then it would have been too late. So God came in a blink of an eye, scooped them out. It was now or never. That's the spiritual level where the Jewish people were on. So really, they weren't on a level on their own that was fit for redemption. It was completely from above. They didn't do anything. It wasn't their doing that got them out. It was God that came from above and got them out. Yeah. There were three things that they did. They kept their Jewish names, their Jewish language, and their dress. That was the only thing that differentiated them between the Egyptians because they also served idols. In those days, we can't even understand the temptation to serve idols, but it was a very, very big temptation which was taken away. It says that that
Today's smartphones.
Today's smartphones. Okay. Yeah.
AKA smartphones.
Exactly. Absolutely. Okay. I don't have to go any further. That's it.
That's it.
100%.
Good. You're done.
Yeah. So basically, in temple times, maybe it was even before, the sages prayed to God and they said, please take away these two temptations of idolatry and adultery. And God said, okay. And he took it away. Problem was that you were not able to find even one egg. Because once you take away the temptation for adultery, there was no more procreation. That's it. You couldn't even find an egg. So the sages turned back to God and said, okay, give it back. But they said, okay, idolatry, that we don't want. But the temptation for adultery, God gave back. So the temptation for adultery today is the same as the temptation for idolatry. But that was taken. But the angel said, what's the difference between the Jews and the Egyptians? These are serving idols and they're serving idols. There's no difference. Like, why free them? But yes, those three things, our names and our language and our dress, that's what kept us apart. And yes, they did put the blood on their doors and they took the sheep. They tied the sheep to their bed, which was a huge self-sacrifice because the sheep is what the Egyptians bowed down to. So yes, they definitely, did something, but relatively speaking, the redemption came from above. They did witness, the 10 plagues, so there was they were experiencing incredible revealed miracles in front of their eyes. Okay. However, going out of Egypt was just the beginning of the process. When was the process complete? By the giving of the Torah. So yes, there are 4 languages, 4 terms of redemption. V'haitzesi, I will take you out. V'itzalti, I will save you. V'ga'alti, I will redeem you. And v'lakachti, and I will take you to me as a nation. The 4th one did not happen immediately. To be taken as a nation, that happened 7 weeks later at the giving of the Torah. So how many of the 4 actually happened on that night when they actually on that night, and then when they went out was actually during the day. But how many of the 4 actually occurred at the moment of the Exodus?
I will take you. The first one. More?
More.
Tell me the other ones again.
Vaitzesi, I will take you out.
Yeah.
V'ga'alti, I will redeem you.
Okay.
No, v'hitzalti, and I will save you. V'ga'alti, and I will redeem you. Those three happened at the Exodus, when they were at the moment of Yetzias Mitzrayim, at the moment of being released from taken out of Egypt, redeemed from Egypt. But the 4th one did not happen. The potential for it, the seed was planted, at the Exodus, but it did not come into fruition until the giving of the Torah. So you see where we're going? Okay. Right? So basically, why are we having 3 matzahs? Because only three happened then. What's the goal? The goal was to remove the filth of Egypt. And that's why we have 7 weeks of Sfiras HaOmer, of refining ourselves. It wasn't just, take you out and okay, now we're perfect. Then came work, real work to get to a level where we could be God's nation. That was accomplished between Passover and Shavuos, between Pesach and Shavuos. That's when we started, we did our part and started working until what? Until we were able to we were fitting to get the title of Goy Kadosh, a holy nation. For example, if your goal is to fly to Israel, you're so excited, you pack your suitcases, you get on the plane, and then there's a stopover in Greece. You're not there yet. You're on the way. You're not there yet. So becoming God's holy people only happened at the giving of the Torah. Yes, going out of Egypt, that was a tremendous miracle. It was extremely transformative, but we didn't finish the job. And the same is with matzah. Matzah does not represent a Jew's accomplishment. Matzah means we didn't have time for the dough to rise. We were not ready. We weren't ready. If it was up to us, we'd wait for the bread. You're going on a long trip, right? Imagine you're going on a long trip, and you know that you need the diaper bag, you need the snacks for the kids. If you don't take the 5 minutes to prepare the snacks for the kids, forget it. It's going to be a disaster, right? So they weren't ready to go. They didn't even get a chance to bake the bread. It was a huge rush. Hashem schlepped them out. They were not ready. They were not ready. And the matzah represents a rush, hastiness, urgency, and a matzah is flat. There's no work here. You did nothing. You accomplished nothing. It's not about you. God comes and picks us up and takes us out, ready or not. And matzah is called the poor person's bread. Not just because after you buy the matzah, you're actually poor. Right? But it's not about the bank account. Poor man's bread means you could have millions in the bank and still be poor spiritually. You could be poor in your mind. At that time, it's called poor man's bread because, and guess what? The Jews went out, they were pretty wealthy, right? They had all the fortune in the world they took out with them.
But they weren't wealthy before that.
Right, they were slaves. But when they went out during the plague of darkness, they went to their neighbors, they saw what their neighbors had, because they couldn't even move because it was so dark. But the Jews had light. And when the Jews said, the Jews were able to snoop around in the houses of the Egyptians, because truth to be told, they really deserved plenty of compensation for all their 200 years of terrible torture and slavery. And then they came and they said, can we borrow your beautiful vessels? And we don't have any. Oh, yes, I know you have. Know exactly where it is, on this shelf, in this room, whatever.
They did not ask for borrow, but they asked as compensation. They did not mislead them, didn't say borrow and to return. They said, can you do this? And Hashem made them that they want to give. They took it as deserving payment, so to speak.
Yes, they absolutely. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Yes. Okay, so they went out with Rochosh Gadol, and spiritually speaking, because they were taking out sparks of holiness. Because they weren't just taking out the physical gold and silver, but every physical, by them taking it out, and then it was used for the tabernacle, right? So it was all taking out the sparks of holiness from Egypt. And so much so to the extent that after the Jews left Egypt, it says that Jewish people don't really have much of a mission in Egypt anymore because we already took all the sparks out. Although the Rambam did live in Egypt for a certain time, but going back to Egypt wasn't encouraged because because we really, got the sparks out when the Jews were there so many years before. Okay, but anyway, when it says matzah is poor man's bread, right? Why is it called poor man's bread? Because they were poor in holiness and they were poor in purity.
That's so crazy, but okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, wow. Like flat, like almost like when you think of like people that go through their lives very flat, and they still have that pencil in it.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
So at the Shabbaton, I know it's going to come out, but I'm saying at the Shabbaton, women stood up. Looking at them, they look like Rebbitzins, right? With beautiful, dressed so modestly and beautifully with their shaitels and everything. And these women spoke, and and one woman spoke. She wasn't Jewish, and she wasn't Jewish, and she lived in Argentina somewhere, 8 hours away. She never even met any Jews before in her life. She heard about it from her father. Her father, said, "Oh, there was these Jewish people, and there was a Holocaust," but she had never met a Jew in her life till she went to college, and then she saw. And she was learning different things of science, and
Going for a doctor.
yeah, a brilliant girl. And she said from science, she said there's got to be a God. There has to be a creator. It can't be of the probability of this world just, the Big Bang is impossible. And she wanted to find out about Judaism. She goes into so she meets this a Jewish boy in her class, and she says, she wants to learn about Judaism. So they said, "Why are you interested in Judaism? Do you have a boyfriend? Like, if you have a boyfriend, then you need to get married. Okay, you could go to the conservative, get a certificate, and then you could get married." And she's like, "No, I don't have a boyfriend, And I just want to learn." And her story. And there were many women that came from, they didn't know they were Jewish, or there was one woman who shared, it was so touching. She was 57 years old, and her mother was very sick, and she needed a rabbi. And she kept calling number after number, but it was the summertime, and rabbis were either on vacation or they weren't picking up their phone. And she turns to God and she says, "God, I need a rabbi." And then all of a sudden there was a knock on the door. And she opened up the door and she said, there were two baby rabbis there. They were young Bachrim, they were young boys. And she said, "How did you know? How did you know to come?" And they were like, "I don't know, But anyway, and today this is in Madison, Wisconsin, and she's in real estate. She owns buildings there. She donated a building to Chabad, and and then she said that Sakara connected with her. Amazing woman. And she said that the Chabad Rebbitzin said, so she said, "What can I do for you?" Her name's Eileen. She said, what? Sheva? Okay. So she said, what can I do for you? So the shlucha said, Fegi, she said, I really want to have a women's group. And I need someone normal to do this. So because she was so influential in the community, and politically and everything like that, she says today they have 40 women come to a women's circle. So she has done tremendous stuff because two young baby rabbis showed up at her door. So everyone's humble, very, very humble beginnings. So she said that she felt connected to God because up until the age of 7, she went to a Hebrew school. But from 7 to 57, she had nothing. She had nothing. She couldn't even get a hold of a rabbi when she needed a rabbi so badly. Basically, well, this is a concept of we're not blaming anybody, but basically there's a concept of being a poor, of a poor man's bread, because of assimilation and whatnot, that there are so many people that today are learning Project Likkutei Sichos and are, have lived completely religious lives. And it's so incredible. Like we kept saying, when a person ends up, you have absolutely no idea what's going to come out of their mouth, like what, where they came from. So that's what it means. So just like on a person, a person's personal journey, where they could come from not being Jewish at all, or not even knowing or thinking that they're Jewish. This one girl, she was working in a bakery, and the Chabad rabbi comes in and he says, "Are you Jewish?" And she says, "No." And then later on, she ends up in the Chabad house, and the rabbi says, "Well, I thought you weren't Jewish." She says, "I'm not. Oh, my mother's Jewish." Like the fact that they didn't even like associate, even though they know their mother's Jewish and the grandmother, but it didn't mean anything to them. It was just it was completely didn't associate themselves as Jews. So just like you have a person's personal journey where they start as a matzah, that where you start as a matzah. So also the Jewish people as a whole, where we started from, the journey that began as a matzah, as a very flat matzah. The Jewish people were spiritually in a place that they were very poor, and on Pesach, the matzah that we eat cannot be matzah ashira. It can't be matzah made with orange juice. It's not supposed to have a taste. It's not supposed to have a fancy taste. Okay, matzah has a taste. It's not supposed to be a good, delicious taste, because it represents the poor man's bread. It represents that we were not in a good place spiritually as a nation.
Were we supposed to break?
What is it?
We're supposed to break the third piece?
Yeah, so there's 3 matzahs. The one that we're actually breaking happens to be the middle one. But yeah, so we do break the matzah. So not only is it flat, but it's also broken. We were pretty broken, Okay. So usually, there's 2 reasons why a person would do something. Why do you do something? Either because you feel forced, or because you understand it and it brings you enjoyment and you're excited to do it and you like it. So a poor man's bread, matzah that just tastes like matzah and is not flavorful, represents that when the Jewish people got out of Egypt, of course they were happy to get out, because anything's better than being a slave. But do you think that they were interested in now, why did Hashem take them out? So that they should now be slaves to God. Now they're going to have a different set of rules. Okay, it's not going to be backbreaking work. But at that point, they weren't excited, from a spiritual perspective, to get out of Egypt. They just wanted to be free. There's free from and free to, right?
Yeah.
To be free from everything and just to be able to get up at any time you want and to do whatever you want, that might be exciting for one day, for 5 seconds. But to be free from Egypt in order to what? In order to serve Hashem, they weren't excited about serving Hashem at that point. And that's why it's so taste, good taste, that represents when I'm excited, when I understand that's what good taste represents, which is wine. Wine is very tasty. As a matter of fact, when people drink wine, they start singing, they could start dancing. Wine represents happiness and excitement, and I'm into it, and I love it, I enjoy it. Matzah It's not something, oh, I enjoy it. You know, maybe the first night we enjoy it because we haven't had it.
Look at it anymore.
Right? So the mata doesn't have that taste. It doesn't have, because we weren't in a place that we were excited to serve God. It was just a place of being very flat, being very broken, and whatever God, the instructions that God, gave them that they had to do in order to get out, it was done from a place of Kabbalah's all. It was done from a place of accepting the yoke of heaven, but it wasn't coming from a place of excitement. Hashem literally had to schlep them out. They weren't, if you're excited, it wasn't like they were all packed up and ready to go. They were like flying out of there, So there's taking out the garbage, it's something that you have to do. And then there's learning. That's exciting, right? Okay.
Were they literate? Did they read and write?
It's a good question. Were they able to read and write? Were they literate?
That was Moshe was teaching them Torah by heart. I mean,
Orally, yeah.
Orally, that's the word, yeah. So
Maybe.
You said,
It was not
read,
Torah was not written.
read the,
Check with AI or chat.
Look, the Jewish people are always brilliant, they're always the smartest. So if anyone was literate, it was for sure the Jews. Okay.
Is that explained that last week was touching on how they were able to do the Vaeira? What you just said, they came out, they were walking, empty, no excitement. So, right after Kabbalah Torah, they still was in a state that they were able to sin.
You're asking how they're able to sin. Okay, so everything is relative.
Right.
Because if you start comparing Matan Torah to Purim was even a greater level of acceptance. So it's a great question, but everything is relative. So there definitely was a tremendous amount of work, and the Yidden were on a level to accept the Torah and to become God's nation at giving of the Torah. Then there was a tremendous challenge because Moshe wasn't there. And the Satan played his role, but ultimately it was all part of a plan. God wanted a tabernacle. God wanted everything that happened ended up happening because the world wasn't ready for Mashiach at that point. God wanted more from us. We say Yod Shvat is coming. We say that we say that this world, it might look like a jungle, but this world is God's garden. And we're God's gardeners, and we're here proving and showing with every mitzvah. We're planting another flower. We're revealing that this world is God's garden. There was a woman that we were close to, and she had a will, and she said, if something happens, don't resuscitate me, don't bring me back to life. But people didn't know that, and she collapsed, and she was and they got her back to life. And she spoke to my husband about it, and she said, why did God give me a second chance? Like I shouldn't be here. And my husband said to her, we come down here and we're making a bouquet of flowers for God. And after 120 years, we come up with flowers for Hashem. God wants your bouquet to be bigger.
Wow.
So you have more work to do.
That's beautiful.
So God wasn't, so if Matan Torah, if that would be it, we'd be perfect then. It would be the time of redemption, but God wanted more from us.
And he's still.
That's the whole story.
That's the whole story about the Manchava. That's right. They could have lived in Gan Eden in paradise, and that's it. But God wants that this jungle, that what looks like a jungle, that we should show that it's a God's garden. He wants more from us, and therefore, if Moshe would have gone into the land of Israel and he begged 515 prayers, They say if you were just one more, God wouldn't have been able to keep him from going in. If Moshe was eternal. If he would have gone into the land of Israel, that's it. It would have been a time of Mashiach, and there would never have been an exile. But God wanted more. He wants more flowers from us.
So should have one more. So I never looked at things from Hashem's perspective to do what he wants, not what I need, not what I want. I want Mashiach, no more suffering, but Hashem needs more than that, and I never looked at it. This is what Chassidus teaches.
Like that's how they opened the Shabbaton. They said you could look at life. We're living on this world, and you look up and you see clouds. But if you go on the airplane, you go above the clouds, and then you go above the clouds, and the clouds are beneath you. And that's what Chassidus does. It picks us up, and it gives us God's perspective. Absolutely, we want Mashiach 100%. Okay, so that was a great question about how they were able to sin. This was part of the plan. It's part of the plan. Okay.
So the visual really is that they're almost blocked when they're leaving,
Yeah.
but they're leaving
The
nonetheless.
visual is a matzah. The visual is a matzah.
But they leave nonetheless.
They leave
Whether
nonetheless.
with choice or not, God takes them out.
God takes them out.
Okay.
Versus the wine. What's wine? Wine represents, you see, there's two things. There's geula and there's cheiros. Geula is redemption. Cheiros is freedom. I could be taken out. I could be taken out, not free. Even think of at the end of the Holocaust, right? So the Germans ran away. But were they really free? They weren't free until they got the help that they needed, you know? They were so broken. So you could be literally not have someone whipping you, but then there's freedom. So there's redemption, and then there's freedom. Freedom is when I feel free. Okay, we're going to discuss that a little bit more. Okay. So geula is getting out of galus, but you're pulled out against your will. And cheiros is when I feel that I'm free. I'm in my new place, and I feel that this is where I belong. When cheiros is, freedom is when it resonates with me, when God resonates with me, when I'm connected, when I feel connected, when I own it. So in Egypt, there were 3 points. Number one, they were flat. On their own, they didn't want to go out. Of course, they wanted the suffering to stop. But if the suffering would stop, the 10 plagues, the Egyptians aren't bothering them anymore, then what's the rush? Everything's fine. And that's why even when they were in the desert, they said, oh, we remember the free, you know, yeah, they remembered they remembered that in Egypt, they said, oh, in Egypt, they were free from serving God. You know, they didn't have, it was a different kind of, it was physical suffering, but they didn't have they were free of mitzvahs. They didn't have the obligation to serve God. And right.
When I'm obligated to sit in school, it's not fun. When you go to college to something you want to do, it is fun. So that's
Right.
what it was. Mitzvahs was an obligation to them. It wasn't a desire to do mitzvahs.
It was forced. It was Kabbalah Sol, 100%.
Also, were the 4 spiritual, physical, emotional were connected, matching up to the matzahs?
Physical, spiritual,
Emotional?
emotional.
I'm blank, there's one more, but Aliza, you'll give it to me. Are you there? I'm blank right now. Physical, spiritual, emotional. What am I missing?
Which one, or spiritual?
Spiritual, physical, emotional.
Mental?
Thank you. The mental.
Well,
So were those
mental-
three represented as the matzahs?
So that doesn't say that here, but, yeah, but I'm saying, but I'm saying what when you're saying
We're missing the
physical,
spiritual, and then we got the spiritual. I don't know, maybe from, okay.
okay, okay, well, so we'll continue and we'll see. But basically, number four is number four is when it's the whole me, when it's the true me, when it's the real me, when it's my core, when I'm in it. It's not just being forced upon me when it's something that I choose and I enjoy and I feel and I'm excited about. That's the difference between 3 and 4, or between the matzah and the wine.
Is it also number 3 as a chazaka?
Number 3 is chazaka. That's true. But here, here that's 100% true. But we're going to discuss 3 even more. We're going to see specifically what 3 represents, what the 3 matzahs represent. Okay, so number 1, we're flat like a matzah. Number 2, we were on a low spiritual level. Spiritually, we were poor. And number 3, the matzah has no taste. Okay. So 4, okay, so we did 3. Now, number 4, the 4th terminology of redemption is vilakachti, and I will take you. I will take you to me as a nation. So at that point, God needs us. We need to be on board. The first 3, God could do without us. He just takes us out. No questions, just takes us out. But for us to be his nation, that requires the Yidden to work on themselves. That requires our participation. God needs us to accept him. We need to want to be his nation. Okay, so again, why 3 matzahs? Because at the Exodus, only the first 3 levels of redemption happened. And that's why we have 3 matzahs. And only the 4th one was realized by the giving of the Torah, and the potential started at the Exodus, but it didn't come into fruition until Shavuos, until the receiving of the Torah. So yes, we do have 4 cups of wine at the Seder, but it wasn't realized yet. V'lakachti, the 4th dimension, that wasn't realized yet, and therefore we could only have the matzahs, which is the most fundamental thing. We could only have 3 because only the first 3 levels actually happened. The seed for the 4th was there as well, but it didn't materialize yet. Okay. Now, all that's wonderful and great. Now we're going to see it in the numbers 3 and 4. So in Aleph Beis, it's very interesting how the letters are drawn has a lot of significance. If you look at a gimel, the gimel is giving. The gimel represents giving, and that's why its leg is the bottom has like a leg, and that that's a little bit forward, represents giving, and Dalid represents a poor person who is receiving. So Gimel Dalid is Gmol Dalim, and from there we have this hint of giving charity to the poor. The Gimel is the giver, the Dalid is the one that receives. When I want to give something, there are 3 dimensions to giving. Number 1, if I'm a teacher, first of all, I have to decide, what do I want to teach? I have to have tons of information in my head, separate and figure out what is the material that I want to teach. What's the concept that I want to give over? Then I have to figure out, how am I going to do it? With what means am I going to do it? And then part 3 is actually the giving. take charity, take tzedakah, for example, right? First, I have to figure out how much money do I want to give. I want to give $1. How am I going to do it? Zelle, credit card, Cash App, cash. How am I going to give it? And then I actually give it. But even while I'm giving it, it's in my hand is stretched out. I'm giving it. There's only 3 dimensions, and it's all about me. The receiver still hasn't bought his lunch yet. The poor man didn't get his lunch yet. It's I want to give $1. It's going to be cash, and I'm handing it to the poor person. It's 3
It has
dimensions.
to be all three?
Giving is 3 dimensions.
That, the
Yeah,
okay.
giving is represented by 3.
Yeah.
Take it even further. This is why we have 3 fathers: Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The male represents giving. Giving is in dimensions of 3. That's why we have 3 fathers, not 4.
How is giving in dimensions of 3? Can you say it one more time?
You have to figure out what you want to give,
What? Yeah, what?
How?
How?
and then give it.
You have to say with that, but you can go on, okay?
Okay. And then you have so the 3, which is the matzah, which is the fathers, which represents giving. That's all, and that okay. So that's all 3 versus 4. What's 4? 4 is when the recipient is introduced. Now the 4th dimension is when you have the receiver, the person who's going to receive it, and that's why we have 4 mothers. 3 fathers and 4 mothers. And the same is true with in a couple, in a relationship. You have the husband or the man, the giver, and then you have the wife, the makabel, the receiver. It's not just poor, not just a poor person. It could be in any form of mashpia makabel.
Wait a second.
Okay.
3 guys, 4 women?
Yeah.
Wait, back up.
I
Back up.
We could use the word lacking, not maybe so much poor or lacking zero. Because you need something that the other person has and you're lacking. So they're not knocking women.
It's not about knocking women. Something doesn't shim in my brain.
Okay, so let's continue. Okay, let's continue and explain.
So I'm gonna.
There's actually a tremendous advantage to the receiver, because the receiver doesn't just take, but rather with what she gets, look what she produces. What's the husband's contribution to a baby?
Okay, need we say more?
Okay, 1 drop of DNA. Yes, that DNA has all the potential for a future baby, but guess what? If you don't have a mother, nothing is going to be realized from that potential.
Well, guess what? If you don't have to give her the same thing.
Correct. So you
What are
need
you
the
saying?
giver. You need the
Yeah,
giver.
okay.
But what does the receiver do? It
What?
takes what the giver gave it and it develops it and it reveals the potential. It reveals the potential of what the giver gave. So 3 represents giving, and 4 represents receiving and developing and revealing the hidden potential. By Pesach, we only had the potential to be a holy nation. That's 3. When is it revealed? When is it revealed? Only by the giving of the Torah, after the Jewish people did their work. So it's not by chance that there are 4 mothers. It wasn't that, Yaakov, he was supposed to marry Rachel, and by mistake he married Leah, and then he didn't have kids, so Bilhah and Zilpah. But no, women, we are 4. We are 4, and the same is with Shabbos, right? 6 days of the week, that's the male energy, and then all that male energy goes into Shabbos, and Shabbos takes it all, and then gives birth to the new week. It's not just taking. It's taking and transforming and creating something new. That's Malchus. Malchus is the 7th. Malchus is the feminine. Shabbos and Malka. That's the queen. That's the Shabbos queen. That's the feminine energy of taking. Yes, you take everything from the week before, and you plant it, and then you end up with the birth of and creating a new week. And it says from Shabbos, all the days of the week of the next week are blessed.
Can the male receive? The opposite? Can the male receive from the female?
Yeah, when you serve dinner.
Practical, simple task, okay.
They receive a home from us.
Yeah. So what we're
What are
saying,
we giving that they should also reproduce that?
the men, they bring home the paycheck,
Where?
hopefully. So you see, what is it?
Sounds like you're kind of like a gentle.
At least that way back when the women were the home traditionally, the men were they brought home the wheat. They brought home they were the ones who planting and bring home the wheat, and then the woman is the one who takes the wheat and makes it into bread. So
Basically,
and
you're saying it's a
reveals.
circle. Like it
So
goes
we're
that
saying
way.
we're not saying that a man has no. We're not saying that a man doesn't have any femininity in him, and women. You could have women that are very masculine. You could have men that are very feminine. You could have. It doesn't. But there is a male energy and a female energy.
Yeah,
So
I know that.
yeah. So we're explaining the difference between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Between the makabel and the mashpia. So you're asking, in this world, could there be a possibility of a man receiving? Of course, of course.
I feel like
We're
it's
always
almost interconnected because you're doing, I'm sitting on the 3 and the 4, the 3 guys, but we can move on. That's
so when
There's always one process in the end.
that's where I'm kind of placing it in. It has to be a process, otherwise,
Yeah.
So then it makes sense.
It becomes.
Yeah, so that's
Right.
kind of makes more sense.
3 + 4 is 7. I love that.
Yeah, I was going in that direction, it just happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. So right. It's developing. It's developing. If not, the woman is the one that she's the one that develops the baby in her womb for 9 months. So it's not just receiving; it's developing and it's revealing the potential. It's revealing the potential. Right. Exactly. 100%. That's Bina. Bina is the building. 100%. Okay. Let's take it a step further. Torah shebechsav. We're going to compare and contrast the written Torah versus the oral Torah. The written Torah, just by the way, it has 3 parts. Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, right? That comes from God. That is given to us from God from above. The written Torah. And what does it say about the written Torah? Shema, Bini, Musar, Avicha. The written Torah is listen to the Musar of your father. Va'al titoish terasimecha, the mother, that represents Torah Shabbal Peh, which is the oral Torah. What's the difference between the written Torah and the oral Torah? I'm not concentrating on the word Musar. I'm concentrating on Avicha and Imecha, right? The written Torah is given to us from above, but the oral Torah, that's our work. The sages and the commentaries and of course, in potential, everything was given to Moshe at Sinai, right? But then the oral Torah, that's our work to be able to learn it and to learn it and to act on it and to live it in a very practical sense. In the Torah, it says, "Don't cook a what is it?
I love it.
Yeah, you should don't cook a kid in its mother's milk, right? So that's all it says. Now you have to understand all the rules that you're not allowed to cook milk and meat together, you're not allowed to eat it, you're not allowed to enjoy it, all the stuff, all the practical stuff, that all the halachas that come out of it, that's all Torah Shebal Peh, which is our work, which is the receiver. It's not one is good, one is bad. It's just different. So my daughter Mushka called me, and I'm like thinking to myself, I really have to prepare for my class. But I well, of course want to hear what I have to say. Well, I of course want to hear what she has to say. So anyway, she found some kind of group, a coaching group for Chabad moms, and she's so into it. And she says, "Mom, I'm so proud of myself. The baby is sick, and she took the baby to work, and she needed the computer. She took the baby to work, and she's nursing the baby in the classroom, and the kids had to make some kind of presentation, and they needed the computer, and the computer's not working. And she said, Ma, and guess what? I was calm, and the kids are playing ball in the middle of class, and whatever, it didn't faze her. But and she's saying and she's attributing it to this coaching group that she's part of. And I said, Mushka, guess what? You're doing exactly what I'm learning about. That I'm so proud of you. I said, I don't know if I was in that coaching group, if I would, if it would have such a good effect on me. But what I'm saying is, there's the coach, and it's a group, and she's teaching. But if you're able to take what the coach is saying and integrate it into your life to the extent that you're sitting in the classroom with a nursing baby, and the kids are playing ball, and you're able to be serene and calm and not get frazzled, and just to do the best you can. It's because someone is giving you ideas, and she said, I always thought that if I'm not feeling well and I go teach anyway, then that's the right thing. And she says, it might be the right thing for the school. The school might be very happy that I showed up, but I'm showing up for school, but I'm not showing up for myself. So I have to show up for myself first. And this is what she's telling me at 12 o'clock when I'm supposed to be preparing for this class. And I said, Mushka, you're not wasting my time, because it's exactly what I need to hear. Because what is it? Yeah, to apply it to. I think maybe I do have to go to part of that coaching group. But anyway, see, I'm not there yet. You see, I'm not there yet. To be able to be part of a group, and there's a coach, and if she just says stuff and you're like, okay, like this doesn't relate to me, like I can't, whatever. That's one way. Another way, which is someone's being mashpia, someone is giving you information. It might be very good information, and she's a Chabad shlucha, and it's not just a. It's someone that learns the Rebbe's Torah, and she said that she made this course based on the letters of the Rebbe about emotional health and whatever it is, and so you have someone that's coming and being mashpia and offering you all this information that could help you. Now, the question is, where are you? Where are you? Is it something that you're ready to integrate and to receive and to make it part of you and live it? I was thinking to myself, oh my God, nursing a baby in the classroom, the kids are playing ball. I would freak out. I'll freak out. I'll start crying.
Crying.
I don't know. I'd run away. I don't know what I would do. but I'm saying to have the serenity to hold it together, and to be okay. That comes because that's a makabel. That you're able to take what you get and to make it part of you, and that it should really affect your life. That's a receiver. That is amazing. And also, going back to the Shabbaton, you see people from all walks of life, all together, and there's one thing in common. They didn't all grow up religious. Some of them found Judaism years later. But the one thing in common is that when they found Hasidus, they found Likkutei Sichos, they found these teachings that we're learning here today, what happened was they took it. They took it and they made it part of their life. And this is their this is their oxygen. One of the speakers, you know what her topic was? Her journey from Lubavitch to Chabad. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? From Lubavitch to Chabad, it's the same thing. So she says she grew up, this is Rivki Slanim's daughter. She grew up as a shlucha. Her mother is like the best teacher in the best teacher for Chassidus. Amazing, and she saw it all. She saw it all. And then she had such difficult challenges in her life with second infertility, and now she has she's a shlucha in Arizona, and she has an organization called Tznitzvol, where she helps people that that are going through such tremendous challenges, and how she wanted it. Then after 5 years, she finally had a third baby, and then after 7 cycles of IVF, which weren't successful, she became pregnant naturally. And then after a few weeks, something happened, and she needed a life. It was either her or the baby. The fetus was 100% healthy, but her life was at stake. She had to have a surgery to save her life, but the baby that she wanted so badly, she didn't have. And today, what keeps her going is the teachings that we're learning, the Chassidus. The Chassidus keeps her going. And she says, what I was a Lubavitcher my whole life, but to be able to integrate it into Chachma, Bina, Das, to take Lubavitch and to make it not just, some nice, something, a nice Dvar Torah. But no, to take it and to develop it, and it should become part of you. It should become your essence, not because your mother is a great teacher, not because your mother is a shlucha in Binghamton, and who knows how many Balei Tshuva she made, and they were there. We saw these women stood up. I came to the Shabbaton, and I didn't know anyone besides for Rivki. Obviously, it was Rivki's doing, that she's here today as a frum woman, frum Chabad shlucha Lubavitch woman. But not because my mother is great, my father is great, because I own it. This is that I take the teachings, and I receive it in a real pneumistic, in an internal way, that this is how I define myself. That's what it means to be a mother. That's what it means to be a mother. That's what it means to be a receiver. It's not it's not something that we should look down upon, but rather it's a huge accomplishment to be able to take Torah that's God given and then make it your own. And the same is and it's the whole thing of the Likkutei Sichos, right? There were 39 volumes of the Rebbe's teachings sitting on everybody's shelves, but it wasn't accessible to anybody, or at least to me. It wasn't accessible. The first few volumes are easier to understand. Okay, up until number 4, that's it. I never pulled out of the shelf anything past the 4th volume because it was just too hard. And it was on the shelf. The Torah could be on the shelf. It's all there. God's giving it to you. The Rebbe is giving it to you. It's all available. Precious, precious treasures, pearls, gems, diamonds. Now the question is, are you going to take it? Are you going to take it and use it to make your life better? To make your life better, not for your sake, but for God's sake, and to live Torah. That it shouldn't be something that's forced upon you. Because I chose it, and that's what's so beautiful. You see these women; they chose it. And one woman, she was asked to go and speak in Beis Rivka. She says, "I'm too shy." I said, "You go and speak." Sometimes the journey from the Lubavitch to Chabad can be more difficult than from a secular life with nothing and to becoming from. Because when you're in Lubavitch, you think, okay, I have it all. It's right. It's success. It's right there. But the question is, did you take the time? Did you take the time that you could use it? That you could use it in order to get oxygen to deal with to deal with the challenges of your life. You look at these women with such big challenges, and that they're able to wake up the next morning and move on, and not only not get depressed, but to go and start an organization to help other people while she's in pain, while she's in such tremendous pain. Where does that come from? Where does that come from? It comes from going on an airplane, and seeing the clouds beneath you, seeing it from God's perspective, seeing it from a Hasidic perspective, that any challenges that come my way, it's not because God is trying to punish me, but it's because there's something here, there's growth that has to happen. And this is part of my mission for whatever reason. And to look at it from a completely different perspective.
Is receiving activation is yeah.
It's activating, revealing, activating and revealing the potential, 100%.
Okay.
Get stuff on the fact that God is punishing you. It's not good. Instead of healing inside and growing from what we're going through, we're just busy going, like, I'm bad. Stop punishing. Like, we get stuck in that. How do we get out of that?
By being here and learning and teaching. And that's why I encourage, that's why we have to, that's why I encourage you and I encourage everyone, not just to learn, but to teach. Suri's starting a group on her block, for a women's group on her block to teach her neighbors that wouldn't necessarily come to this class. Maybe they're too intimidated. But Suri, they know. So they love Suri, and if Suri makes the class, they're going to come to Suri's house. So when you have to teach it, it's a different story than just learning it, because now, right now, it's not just, in order to teach it, you have to really get it, integrate it into your life, feel it, mean it, own it, activate it, reveal it.
Yeah, but honey, to answer Suri's question, don't turn off. I think maybe those people that have the question are almost on the three levels, like fighting to get over to the receiving piece. Could be they're there until it kind of clicks and they can activate and they can integrate and say, that was my challenge, and how it gets revealed, like this is from God. So I'm thinking when you have a question, you're sort of in those three levels. It makes
right.
sense.
So sometimes we're stuck. And the Jewish people were stuck in Egypt. They were stuck in Egypt, and they needed God to get them out, because sometimes we do feel very stuck, and we haven't reached a place of integrating and marinating in it and making it become part of us. That absolutely. Okay. So there's what we get, and then the question is what we do with it. That to work on ourselves, to become, to reach our potential. Okay, so basically what we have done is we have contrasted the difference between matzah and wine, and 3 and 4, and mashpia and mekabel, the giver and the receiver, and the 6 days of week and Shabbos, and going out of Egypt and the giving of the Torah, and the written Torah and the oral Torah. And it's like, we have compared and contrasted all these concepts. And now we're just going to end off with a halacha. The halacha says that if a person swallows matzah, he puts the matzah in the back of his throat and he swallows it. He didn't taste it. Is he yaitze? Did he fulfill his obligation on the night of Pesach? Yes or no? What do you think? The answer is yes.
Is that because it's similar to that it's a poor man's bread? It's the same aspect.
Okay, so there's two aspects. There's the person and there's the matzah. On Pesach, the person is not on a level where they're able to enjoy, where they're able to have pleasure. And therefore, even if they didn't taste the matzah, they're still fine. So the person is not fit yet. He hasn't worked on himself yet to be on the level of 4 cups of wine. He's still stuck and dealing with his, dealing with his with freeing himself. Okay, but on the other hand, the matzah still has a taste of matzah. So you do not fulfill your obligation. If you took flour and you mixed it with apple juice, and there was no it did not rise after 18 minutes, it was already baked and didn't come in contact with water. Do not fulfill your obligation. That's called matzah ashira, like rich matzah. You do not fulfill your obligation on the Seder night by eating that kind of matzah, because matzah still has to have the matzah taste. Why does it still have to have the matzah taste? Because we're planting the seed. We're planting the seed for taste. So the matzah itself has to have a taste. It can't be apple juice. It has to have the taste of matzah. If you didn't taste it, you're okay, because you're not on that level anyway. But the matzah still has to have the simple taste of matzah, because you just planted the seed that by the time Shavuos comes, you will have the taste, you will have the excitement, you will have the passion, which is represented by number 4, which is the wine.
You have to choke on the matzah to fulfill the mitzvah.
No. So yeah, eat the matzah regularly. But we're just saying, hypothetically speaking, yeah.
Okay, so sometimes just going through the routine ends up being meaningful at a different time.
Okay, excellent. We're going to discuss that in 1 second. You're right on track. Yeah. Okay. You want to say?
You were saying like a few weeks ago
That's right.
about the Bina
Yeah,
Chochmah.
I see.
So experiencing and learning and coming is that Bina, and then we understand and and that's the Chochmah coming in.
No, so the chachma is the potential.
The Chochmah is
The potential, and the bina is where that potential is developed. You have a flash of lightning, an idea, a spark, and then so chachma is the father, bina is the mother. Okay, excellent question. Okay, for example, a kid's in school. In school, we daven, and the kid might feel forced to daven in school from 9 to 9:30. That's davening time. So the kid could say, okay, when I'm in school, I have no choice. I have to daven. Now what happens when I have midwinter vacation? Okay, now I can do whatever I want, right? But when a person has an appreciation for what davening is, right? If I'm doing it like a matzah, if I'm doing it and I'm forced, I'm doing it, I have matzah, meaning there's no taste, no understanding, no pleasure from it. If I have vacation, no one's on my head, I'm not going to daven. But if a kid understands the value of davening and appreciates davening, then even on a day of vacation, they're going to daven. That's the difference between 3 and 4. So, and the same, so this is, now is the time for the lesson. The teaching is over. And then I was listening to my husband, and the girls are like, what's the lesson? What's the lesson? Okay.
Really well.
The lesson is incredible. It's a lesson of patience, perhaps.
I can't believe you're saying that. Sorry.
No, please do.
My daughter is up for a job, and she's been waiting for weeks to hear to be given the contract. And this morning I kept telling her, God is saying you have to wait, you have to have patience, you have to learn. I was saying that God is telling you to learn to be patient. That's what you should be doing now. Not be anxious, not be trying to figure it out, but to say, I need to learn patience. Of course, she didn't listen to me at all, but but you said patience, it blew me away.
Okay, so listen to this. Okay. Listen to this. I completely forgot the message you sent me on Sunday. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so I'm just finished. Okay, this is the most amazing thing is like this. The first day of marriage, the first day of a job, the first day of school, the first of anything, and the beginning of anything. You have to realize that that is a stage of number 3. That's just number 3. And that's just the beginning. That's the planting. There has to be a point of a point from where we start. And the first day of marriage, you can say, "Oh, why? You know, I don't have the full experience yet." The first day of marriage, you don't have the full experience of marriage. The first day of work, you don't have the full experience of it, or the first day of school, or the first of anything. There's a process here. There's first a seed that gets planted. The seed that's planted, that's by the Exodus. Are we there yet? Are we the holy nation yet? No, it was just the beginning. It's just number 3. It's just being schlepped out, or the beginning of something, the beginning of becoming a nation. But don't give up. If in the beginning you don't feel it, don't give up. We have the potential to become incredible. Take the 3 and make it into a 4. 3 is potential. We have infinite potential. Question is what we're going to do with it. And you will not have the full experience until you put your heart and your soul into it.
Yeah.
And that's with everything. That's with dating. You know, you could date, you have a very good time, but you're not ready to make the commitment. Until you're ready to put your heart and soul into it, you're not going to experience the true beauty until you put your heart and soul into it, and it takes commitment. And that's what we saw again and again this during the Shabbaton. You saw potential revealed. You saw potential revealed. That's what you saw. You saw people who didn't know they were Jewish, didn't associate with Jewish people, never met Jewish people, were so far removed. But everyone has that emes, everyone has that potential, and we all have that potential. The potential that represents going out of Egypt. That's when the seeds are planted. Are we there yet? No. God comes, showers us, sends us a gift from above, gives us the Torah, takes us out of Egypt. He does his part. Now the question is, what are you going to do? We have to work on ourselves. We have to develop ourselves. We have to grow. We have to internalize. We have to take it in. I'll just end with one more thing, and that's it. There's a story. There was a chassid, and he was traveling to his Rebbe. And there were no cars in those days. It was horse and buggy. And he didn't even have his own horse and buggy. So he would walk. And then he would try to get a ride from point A to point B to get closer and closer to his destination to go to his Rebbe. And he's hitchhiking. And he sees a guy with a horse and wagon stops for him. And he says, "Can I please get a ride with you?" The guy says, "Sure, get into the back of the wagon." And the guy is freezing cold. He's freezing cold. And he's in the back of the wagon, and there's a bunch of barrels in the wagon. And he's wondering to himself, okay, what's in these barrels? And he realizes what's in these barrels? There's whiskey in the barrels. So he screams to the guy on the horse, says, "Do you mind? Can I have a little bit?" The guy says, "Sure, no problem." He takes a cup, he fills it with a little bit of whiskey, has a shot, and now he's warm. You could be surrounded with Torah, with coaching, with therapists, with all the help and the support in the universe. You're completely surrounded by it. You have barrels of whiskey all around you. But your job is to take a cup, fill it up, and ingest it, drink it, bring it inside of you. Own it, drink it. And that's number 4. That's number 4. 3 is the three is the three matzahs. You have to be schlepped out of whatever the situation you're in. You're beginning a process of refinement and working. You're getting everything from above. You're so welcome. Before is when I take what's around me, what God gives me, the potential that God gives me, and I say, I own it. It's mine. There's so much out there. There's so Torah and there's so much out there. The question is, am I going to leave it on the shelf, or am I going to choose to own it? Choose to own it and make it mine and live it. And it's a process. So don't give up. Don't give up if you don't feel that you have the full experience, but rather realize that it's a journey. It's a journey. We start with God. God is there to give us and give us and give us. But then we have to take it and make it our own. To take it, we have to own it, we have to live it. L'chaim. Amen. Amen. Okay.
L'chaim.
And you really gave it over so clearly.
Thanks to my husband. He taught in Beis Shukah this morning. I listened to him twice, took notes twice, and here I showed up. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Teamwork. Yes.
You're a gift, Bunny.
Oh, thank you, Liz. Everyone's a gift. Everyone's a gift. And that's what we saw on Shabbos. Every single person is a whole